Hi guys, your first essay question this week asks about the social construction of race. This can be kind of a difficult concept, especially if you don't have a ton of background in sociology. So I just wanted to go over that and help clarify what that is and what it isn't. So to start out, let's talk a little bit about what a social construction is. So this comes out of symbolic interactionist theories. So just as a quick review on that, symbolic interactionism believes that our society is built on all of the small interactions that people have every day. It's also very concerned with meanings and symbols and how we make sense of the world around us. So when we talk about social construction, I'm going to keep up with their construction metaphor. And what it means is that you're taking basic building blocks from the world around you. So if you're talking about the social construction of age, you're talking about the actual physical years and appearance and things that people have. If you're talking about the social construction of gender, you're talking about actual biological differences between the sexes. We're talking about social construction of race this week, so those building blocks are going to be the physical characteristics, the skin color, the hair color and hair texture, the facial features, things like that are going to be your building blocks that people use. Your book does a good job of explaining why we can't look at race solely biologically because of all the different variation within groups and the lack of distinct genetic variation between groups. But what I would like to focus on is how you take those physical characteristics, which as many people bring up do exist, and you turn them into something that a society considers race. So, when we're talking about social construction, we're talking about how you take those physical characteristics and you turn them into something meaningful for your society. What it means to have different races, what it means to be a member of that race. It focuses on your expectations about that. It focuses on your beliefs about what you mean about races, and those beliefs translate into actions. Now, often when I've talked about social construction to students, I've gotten two responses, and let's discuss both of those to discuss what social construction isn't. So sometimes students will say, oh, well, if you're saying that race is socially constructed, you're ignoring all of these scientific things, or you're ignoring eternal truths with religion. Neither of those are the case. We're saying that things do have possibly a physical characteristic and element to them, but then what society makes of them also matters. And in some cases, that because that's what your actions are based on, that it matters even more than those. And in terms of religious things, we're blessed to have that extra perspective, to know eternal truths, that we are all children of God. However, we also live in a society that has different ideas about race, and we need to be able to understand what those are and what that social construction is. It's not saying that there isn't eternal truth somewhere else, but it's saying that society does have its own ideas that we need to understand. The second thing that I've heard from students often is, well, if you're saying it's social constructed and we built it, well, then this is all just a lie and it really doesn't matter or shouldn't matter. Now, in many cases, it's true that race shouldn't matter, but because people have created it and have acted on it, it does matter. It's very meaningful. It makes a huge difference in the lives of people. Now, when we're looking at evidences of social construction, one of the things we can look at is that our idea of race changes over time. Those physical things, the people's skin color, facial features, etc., those haven't necessarily changed. But what we've built with that house has changed over time. Here's an example of that. This man in the picture is named Walter White. He is the first president of the NAACP, which is focused on the advancement of colored peoples. That's the initials for it in the United States. Now, Walter White, as you can see, is not a dark-skinned African-American man. However, for his time period, he was considered black. If you look at his 32 great-great-great-grandparents, only 5 of those are actually African-American, and all the rest are white. But because of the history of slavery in our country, he was considered a black man. The rule at many times was that if you had one drop of African American blood, you were considered black. His family was living in a black community. He went to African American schools. And yet, if you look at him from skin color only, you may not guess that. If he lived today, he might be able to present himself as multiracial. However, at the time, because he had even just that less than 20% of African American, he was considered as black and he was not able to present anything else unless he tried to pass as white and ignore his African American heritage completely. Other evidences that we have of social construction are that our idea of race changes in different societies. Keeping with the building metaphor, people take the same building materials, the same wood, the same nails, the same drywall, and they create different structures that fit their culture. So if you were asked to envision a black family in the United States, you would probably envision something like it looks on the left. However, if you were asked to envision that in Australia, they tend to view that as Aboriginal families. In contrast, an Aboriginal family in the United States would be labeled as Pacific Islander. However, for Australia, their history and their culture would have them focus more on Aboriginal people who were there when the original British colonizers came, and they've been viewed as black ever since. So I hope this helps explain it. Social construction just takes those building blocks, it turns them into a reality that fits with the culture and the history and the time period. And it's really important to understand because it's what shapes our reality and our interactions around us.